Hello, guys. In today's podcast, we will be talking about how to manage your money. Managing money effectively is one of the most significant challenges many people face. The cycle of earning, spending, and running out of cash before the next paycheck is a problem that affects millions. For many stressors, such as car repairs, unexpected medical bills, or even sudden job loss, pose threats that can derail their financial stability almost immediately. But what if there were a practical, sustainable plan that could break this pattern for good? In the following educational essay, we will explore a comprehensive 5-step system for managing your money in a way that ensures you never go broke. We will discuss adopting a frugal mindset, building an emergency fund, learning how to invest, and finding creative ways to generate additional income. By the end, you should have a roadmap to protect your financial well-being and develop healthy habits for a secure future. The paycheck-to-paycheck problem. To begin, let us define what it truly means to live paycheck to paycheck. In the simplest sense, a person earns money from their job, dedicates that income to bills, rent, or other major responsibilities, and then proceeds to spend much of the remainder on various non-essential items. The problem is that, after these spending rounds, there is little, if any, money left for savings or an emergency fund. When sudden expenses arise, or if the person loses their job, there is no financial cushion available, so panic ensues. The key to solving this dilemma is understanding that money management is not a random or impossible puzzle. It is based on fairly simple principles of income and expenses. If you habitually spend everything you earn, you become reliant on your next paycheck for survival. If that paycheck gets delayed or disappears, your financial structure collapses. This recognition is the cornerstone of meaningful change. Understanding that the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle is not sustainable and that a more measured strategic approach can drastically improve your life. By embracing 5 clear, methodical steps, you can break from this cycle, achieve greater security, and permanently reduce your financial stress. Step 1. Understanding why we live. Paycheck to paycheck. Before making any major changes, it is crucial to grasp why so many people live paycheck to paycheck in the first place. Often individuals work their jobs, receive payment for their labor, and immediately allocate those funds to critical expenses. These include rent or mortgage payments, utility bills, groceries, and possibly debt obligations such as student loans or credit card bills. After settling these obligations, many find themselves with a fraction of their earnings left. With that smaller pool of funds, the next round of spending commences. Perhaps it includes nights out at restaurants, small online purchases, streaming subscription fees, or impulse buys at the grocery store. Before they know it, the pay period is over and the person has exhausted all of their income. The stress compounds when the slightest financial hiccup occurs. A flat tire, an emergency visit to the doctor, or an unexpected repair bill can throw everything off balance. With no savings or cushion, they must rely on debt or must simply forego certain necessities, which leads to higher anxiety and often worse financial outcomes in the long term. The first step, then, is to acknowledge this pattern. Personal finance is not about how much money you make, but rather how you use it. Recognizing that your financial health depends on planning rather than wishful thinking is the inaugural stage in your journey toward stability. Step 2. Adopting a frugal mindset. Once you have recognized the problem, the next step involves adjusting your spending habits. Frugality does not mean depriving yourself of everything fun or comfortable in life. Instead, it involves making deliberate decisions to avoid wasteful spending and focusing on the expenses that bring true value or necessity. For instance, if you are used to living in a large apartment or home with high rent, moving to a smaller, more affordable place can substantially reduce your monthly obligations. Similarly, trading in a high-payment vehicle for a cheaper one can free up additional funds immediately. Frugality is best seen as a mindset rather than a temporary fix. When you adopt this perspective, you begin to question each purchase. Is this item or service adding real value to my life? Or am I buying it out of habit or convenience? Once you establish guidelines for yourself, you will find it easier to allocate funds toward more productive areas, like saving, investing, and eventually creating alternative sources of income. Step 3. Building an emergency fund. Even if you are diligent about cutting wasteful spending, frugality alone will not guarantee complete financial security. Emergencies can arise at any moment, and job security is not always certain. That is why building and maintaining an emergency fund is the critical next step. The concept behind an emergency fund is simple. You regularly set aside a portion of each paycheck before you pay your bills or purchase anything non-essential. In other words, you pay yourself first. For many, the ideal emergency fund covers 6 to 12 months of living expenses. That might sound like a staggering amount of money, but the key is to save consistently over time. Even modest contributions each payday will accumulate, eventually providing a substantial financial cushion. If your car breaks down or you experience a gap in employment, this fund ensures you are not reliant on high-interest debt or forced to skip essential payments. Building this fund is often the first moment when people genuinely feel a shift in their financial circumstances. It is empowering to know that you have a reserve to tap into should the unthinkable happen. It also bestows a level of freedom. You are no longer living in a precarious state, dependent on the immediate arrival of your next paycheck to survive. This security net grants you peace of mind and the psychological space to plan the next steps of your financial journey. Step 4. Getting your money to work for you. After establishing a sizable emergency fund, the best place for excess savings is not in a low-interest account, but rather in investments that have potential for growth. Because of inflation, a natural rise in costs over time, money saved in a basic savings account may lose purchasing power if the interest rate is too low. One effective way to combat inflation while potentially generating passive income is to invest in index funds or broadly diversified mutual funds. Index funds track a market index, such as the S&P 500, which represents a large segment of the stock market. Over the long term, these funds tend to grow, albeit with the occasional downturn, meaning your money can gradually multiply. By contributing a portion of each paycheck to these investments and reinvesting any gains, you build a compounding effect. This means not only does your principal increase, but the returns on that principal also go on to earn additional returns over time. Crucially, building wealth through investments is not usually a fast process, and it is not guaranteed to make you incredibly rich overnight. Yet it is a proven method of securing a more comfortable financial future. Even if your gains are modest, they typically outpace those of a standard bank account, helping you stay ahead of inflation. The real strength of such an approach lies in its passivity. After setting up your investment plan, you do not need to spend countless hours monitoring the market or trying to outsmart professional traders. You simply keep investing at a steady pace, letting the market's natural growth work for you. When you combine a robust emergency fund with consistent investments, you have effectively established 2 layers of financial security. If you lose your job, you have immediate money in savings. Meanwhile, your investments continue to grow, further insulating you from potential economic hardships down the line. You have transcended the typical paycheck-to-paycheck existence and entered a stage where, although you may still rely on your job for income, you are no longer utterly dependent on it for day-to-day survival. Step 5. Getting creative and expanding your income sources. With a mindset of frugality, a stable emergency fund, and an investment routine in place, the final step is to diversify or expand your income streams. Once you are no longer tied to living paycheck to paycheck, you have more freedom to explore options such as starting a side business or investing in real estate. You might consider driving for rideshare companies, freelancing your specialized skills online, or even launching a blog or YouTube channel. The beauty of this step is that it can be personally fulfilling in ways that a traditional 9-to-5 job might not be. For example, if you have a passion for writing, you can try to monetize your hobby by writing and self-publishing ebooks or by doing freelance work for clients. If you enjoy the process of teaching, you might start tutoring or creating online courses in subjects you know well. Each new venture has the potential to become a meaningful addition to your portfolio of income sources. Having multiple income streams makes you more resilient to economic changes. If one source declines, you are not left stranded. The very act of discovering these new revenue opportunities usually involves learning new skills, developing creative capacities, and forging new social and professional connections. While none of these paths guarantee overnight success, they can evolve into a powerful complement to your regular job income. The big picture: a more sustainable financial system. By stepping back to look at the entire 5-step system, we can appreciate how each portion builds upon the previous one to achieve real financial independence. If your starting point was a paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, it may seem daunting to reach that state of security. Yet, by taking it one step at a time, you can work toward a sustainable plan. Recognize the cycle. Accept that living paycheck to paycheck is not sustainable. You must shift your approach if you want to move toward financial security. Adopt frugality. Reduce major and minor expenses intentionally. Instead of merely cutting costs, focus on distinguishing between real needs and wants. Establish an emergency fund. Pay yourself first each payday. Gradually work to build 6 to 12 months' worth of living expenses in savings, providing a financial buffer. Invest wisely. Put surplus funds into index funds or other stable investments that take advantage of compounding interest, helping your money keep pace with or outgrow inflation. Explore new avenues. Once you are more financially secure, You have the freedom to pursue side hustles, passion projects, and creative ventures without the paralyzing fear of what if I fail. An important aspect of this plan is that it is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It demands patience, discipline, and a willingness to set realistic goals. You are not likely to stumble upon an old billionaire online who will wire you half their wealth, nor should you count on short-lived, speculative market fads promising overnight fortunes. Instead, you are steadily and thoughtfully constructing a financial engine capable of supporting you throughout both good and bad times. Overcoming common obstacles. Even the most thorough plan can be sabotaged by a few pitfalls. For instance, lifestyle inflation often creeps in when people receive a raise or come into a lump sum of money. Rather than immediately boosting investments or savings, they upgrade their car, dining habits, or gadget collection. While it is completely acceptable to reward yourself for hard work, it is essential to be mindful about setting aside some of that increased income to solidify your financial foundation. Another challenge is the temptation to raid your emergency fund for non-emergencies. Remember that this fund is your lifeline for genuine crises, such as job loss, medical bills, or urgent travel to support a family member. Taking out money for a vacation or a new TV defeats the purpose of having that safety net and endangers your long-term stability. A promising path toward financial independence. Learning how to manage your money so you never go broke is a goal within reach for anyone willing to follow a structured, patient process. Start by understanding the paycheck-to-paycheck trap and acknowledging that money is ultimately a matter of basic math. You either spend more than you make or learn how to save and invest wisely. The next steps: adopting frugality, building a robust emergency fund, and entering the world of investing. Ensure you develop stability and grow your money at a steady pace over time. Finally, once you have established a degree of financial security, you can explore additional income sources and creative pursuits to bolster that stability further. This system will not transform you into a millionaire overnight. Instead, it offers a slow, consistent route toward long-lasting financial well-being. Implementing these habits helps you stop worrying about whether you can handle the next emergency or whether your paycheck will stretch until the end of the month. You become empowered to make career choices based on passion or potential rather than desperation. Ultimately, by learning to manage your money through a blend of discipline, knowledge, and creativity, you can lift the weight of financial insecurity off your shoulders and move forward with confidence and peace of mind.